So I just wanted to make a quick video about Somalia real quick. You know, in all my time living in Somalia, which was not very long, well, I visited in 2014 when I believe it was Hassan Sheikh Mahmoud who was the president at that time, or Farmajo. There's checkpoints around the whole city, literally everywhere. There's Al Shabaab operating in certain areas near Villa Somalia. There's African Union troops there. There's tanks rolling through the streets. 2014, right? 2014, somewhere around there. And 2014 was around the time when ISIS was pretty big in Syria. So why am I saying all of this? I'm just kind of like looking at Somalia through the lens of a Somali diaspora member. But I just don't really like I don't have much hope for Somalia, you know? I don't have much hope. When you kind of outline the whole chronological order and timeline of things, let's not go back to the Ogaden War, but let's begin from Siad Barre was ousted in 1991. I believe Somaliland got their independence somewhere around 1988 to 1991. What was it called? The Somali National Movement, which was the SNM. They were backed primarily by Ethiopia, right? Because they wanted revenge for the Ogaden War of 1977 when we tried to take over the Ogaden region and absorb it into the Somali. It's not an empire, bro, because those people are Somali. And they wanted to join the Union. They wanted to be part of Somalia. So to say that that was something that we shouldn't have done, some kind of imperialistic ambition, is wrong, right? It's not exactly correct. Moving on from that, then there was a civil war from 1991. That's when the civil war started. And there was the USC, the United Somali Congress in Mogadishu, which is backed by primarily the Hawiye clan. And then there's so many other factions and so many other tribes. It's a complete mess. There's ethnic tensions, there's sectarian violence, not in terms of Shia or Sunni, because every person in Somalia is Sunni. It's 100% Sunni, 100% Muslim, same religion, same everything. But we still have our differences that we spill blood over, you know? So every region has its own president as well. I'm kind of going all over the place right now, but the Somali Civil War, 1991, Siad Barre, we all know what happened with him. He just seems like an asshole. He's an asshole, to be honest. He could have just peacefully put down the crown, bro. Put the crown down, peacefully give away the power, and let the country move on. But no, he wanted to keep power with an iron fist, even though it was slipping away from him. The Soviet Union was gone. It dissolved. It was gone. He's arrogant as well. Like, he thought he could beat the Soviet Union during 1977 war with Ethiopia. Like, he's arrogant, selfish. This is a whole list of things I can say about Siad Barre, bro. That guy was a fucking asshole. He was an asshole. He killed over 50,000 Isaac members in Hargeisa, in the north. Okay, they were rebellious. They were rebels. Okay, they were rebels. I concede that point. Like, that's a fact. But did you have to deal with them in that way? Like, summarily executing entire neighborhoods and cities? Let me move this back a bit. Summarily executing entire fucking cities and carpet bombing and all this stuff. Like, I think that's not really the origin. The origin point is that we lost the Ogaden War with Ethiopia. And then other factions started to feel dissatisfaction with the regime. That's how it works. Like, if you lose a war and you're a dictator, then factions are going to start to splinter and they're going to start to look at different ways to topple you because they're not satisfied with how you ran the war. A lot of people died. 2/3 of the army was destroyed in the Ogaden War. The army was completely dismantled. We lost a lot of people. We lost a lot of equipment. We lost a lot of shit. People were dissatisfied with that. And then he fell a couple years later after that, you know. He ran away to Nigeria in a tank. Not to Nigeria. He ran to Kenya with a tank. And then from Kenya, he ran off to Nigeria and he died in a coma somehow. Good riddance, man. Good riddance. But after he left, all of those rebel groups that were trying to oust him, that's typically how it works with revolutionaries, right? And rebels. Like once they achieve the goal of taking out the leader, they don't plan very well for the power vacuum that exists after ousting that dictator. Same example with Syria now, but typically it's not like that. Like after you oust the dictator that you were planning to oust, and that was the whole reason why the rebels were unified. And then once that reason went away, there was no reason to. There was nothing that kept them unified anymore. They achieved the objectives that they were set out to do. So now we have what we have now because of what happened in the Civil War and because of what Siad Barre did in the 1977 war. All of these different events have a cumulative factor. Like they all slowly add up and lead to what we have now. You can't say that the Ogaden War was the only reason why everything fell apart. It's just a multitude of factors. And who do I blame the most for this? Honestly, I kind of blame Somaliland for a lot of these problems. I blame them a lot. I think they're traitors, They're traitors to the cause, traitors to the country. How could you even dare to even think about separating from the country and becoming your own entity and having more power? But then that's an illusion, right? Those fucking filth. I don't know. I'm starting to sound like fucking Siad Barre at this point, but I wouldn't do what he did. I would have sat down with the leaders of the SNM and tried to find some kind of political solution. I would give up the crown if I was Siad Barre. But then I probably wouldn't have gone to war with Ethiopia without being ready. So yeah, I guess I have the benefit of hindsight, but man, it is quite a bitter pill to think about, like how we could have actually built a country. Now we have what do we have? Puntland, we have Somaliland. What's happening now with Hassan Sheikh? Let's talk about the current state of the country. Well, we have to talk about the 2006 war a little bit first. So let me set the stage for you guys. After the civil war ended, kind of like in 2005, 2006 ish, the Islamic Courts Union took over, and they ousted the CIA-backed militias that were controlling Mogadishu, and then they became the ruling government party. The federal government, the FGS, which is supported by Kenya and Ethiopia, they were in Beidawo, somewhere around the outskirts near the border with Ethiopia. And they wanted to take over the country from the so-called Islamists. Well, they were Islamists, but they were the moderates. The Al Shabaab was the youth revolution, the youth movement organization under the Islamic courts. They were the armed faction of the Islamic Courts Union because there's different factions within that union. Now, moving on, who was the leader of the Islamic Courts Union? It was Sheikh Sharif Ahmed, President Sheikh Sharif Ahmed. He became the president of the FGS but that's kind of moving forward a bit. But what happened? Well, long story short, the Ethiopians invaded to topple the Islamic Courts Union with the help of Americans post 9/11 because there was a very strong anti-Islamic, tension in the air because of what happened with 9/11, Iraq War. They were worried about Al Qaeda, which is why they attacked with the Ethiopians because they didn't want to give a safe haven for the Al Qaeda and the extremists to have a staging area to attack different countries from Somalia, which is why the Ethiopians attacked because they considered it a casus belli because we had Islamists within the region, we had extremists in the ICU, which were kept in check by the moderates. Ironically, they were kept in check by the moderates. So by invading Somalia and taking over and putting the federal government in charge, the FGS, federal government of Somalia, transitional federal government. That was the name that they had at that time, right? Transitional federal government. My God, my God. The Ethiopians are really the ones to blame mostly for everything that's happening with our country. Like they want the truth is they want to keep us weak and divided so that we never have the power to take back the Ogaden region from Ethiopia and bring it to Somalia. That's the truth. That's the overarching truth. The Kenyans are more so about security concerns. Like they say, oh, it's because we don't want Al Shabaab to kidnap people and attack, so we want a buffer zone, blah, 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 which is bullshit because why is it bullshit? They launched Operation Linda and she in 2011, right? Why did they do that? Because there was a power vacuum after the Ethiopians left in 2009. Then AMISOM came in 2010, I believe. I'm not sure. The UN passed a resolution. We don't have the power to veto any of those UN resolutions. We can't, anyways, because the federal government is a puppet of America and Ethiopia. They're an Ethiopian puppet. Long story short. Why are they an Ethiopian puppet? Because they were installed with the help of the Ethiopian military, with tanks, with artillery, with shooting, with guns. They committed many massacres in Mogadishu, the Ethiopians. They did. They did indeed. The TPLF was the ruling party at the time, I believe. And then we took them out. Like we basically armed ourselves and we drove the Ethiopians out. And then they came back with the under the auspices of AMISOM, which is still here today, AMISOM, which is now AUSOM, even though they're not going to leave. And then there's also bilateral agreements with Ethiopia to send different troops not under AMISOM. So I'm missing a lot of stuff. I haven't talked about that fucking Danyer, the donkey, Abdullah Yusuf. He was from Puntland. He's a Majorcan. He was part of the transitional federal government at that time in 2006 that was trying to topple the ICU. He went over to Ethiopia. He begged, who was the fucking president at the time? I don't remember. The Ethiopian prime minister or president. It doesn't really fucking matter. I don't give a fuck about knowing their names. But they invaded with Abdullah Yusuf, which is who is an Ethiopian puppet. Apparently, he actually regretted doing that later on when they interviewed him about it. But yeah, Abdullah Yusuf was a traitor. He was a fucking traitor. He was a fucking traitor. And Ethiopia's, I mean, they're not traitors. They're our enemy. But yeah, that's kind of like a little breakdown. Not really very good. Because I was kind of walking all over the place, but just wanted to get my ideas out about Somalia. Do I necessarily think that everything's going to be changing and hunky-dory? No, it's not, man. It's not. The reality is, like, we do need a revolution in Somalia. Like, we need a revolution. Like, I'm not saying that we should topple the government or whatever. I'm just saying we need a revolution in the mind, perhaps. An ideological revolution, perhaps. But Al-Shabaab and the federal government right now, they're still fighting because Al-Shabaab doesn't recognize the authority of the transitional government and the federal government because they're compromised. They're puppets. I actually agree with Al-Shabaab on that aspect, not anything else. I think there's a lot of them that are terrorists because they attack innocent civilians, hotels, people where, so it's a contentious topic. They don't have the popular support that they had during 2006 when the Ethiopians invaded. Back then, they were freedom fighters, but now they're considered terrorists because of the disproportionate attacks that they do towards civilians, even though they're hunting AMISOM or they're hunting politicians that are working for the federal government. It's still, I don't know, you can't really justify attacking a whole building full of people just because there's 3 people that you want to attack. I'm not going to justify anything they do, but I do blame the West for Al-Shabaab's existence because they were the ones that invaded in 2006 and toppled a government that wasn't threatening anybody. There were no threats to anybody's security. Like, we could have just had bilateral agreements with Ethiopia and Kenya to solve the problem without military force because now we have a complete mess, a sectarian mess, complete sectarian mess. The federal government has no control. They only control Mogadishu and some of the outlying areas. Al-Shabaab is attacking Balad now. They're 30 kilometers away from, not even 30, like maybe 10, 15 kilometers away from the Mogadishu. The African Union, they're drawing down the troop numbers now. It's going down to 10,000. Egyptians are coming in. They're sending 1,000 troops. The Burundis are leaving. The Ugandans are having less troops coming in as well. And the Ethiopians are also going to come in as well. It's not looking good for us, man. Like, honestly, I do kind of feel like I do think that Ethiopia will probably try to annex Somalia at some point. At some point in the future, they will try to destroy us and annex the entire country. I understand that that seems like kind of a scary prospect, but they would do it. They've invaded before. They've invaded. We've had border wars with them many times. 1982, 1977. Then there was, well, they had a civil war, and then they. Why did we have a civil war for so long? Like 15 years. And then we finally got our act together, and then we finally unified the country, and then we still have not really unified. The South was mainly the problem. I'm from the South. My family's from Mogadishu and Dus Maraba and all those places. Man, it's kind of depressing thinking about Somalia and all the other different elements within that context. I've kind of given you the fluffing bite-size reason for everything. Um, Maybe if I was president, but the president has no authority. Like, how many presidents do we have? We have a president in Somalia. We have a president in Puntland. We have a president in Jubaland. We have a president in the federal government in Mogadishu. So that's four presidents, and then we have another president in Khartoum State, which is next to Somaliland and Puntland in the middle. My God, it's just a mess, a complete mess. Sectarian divisions, ethnic tensions, tribal tensions, corruption, Islamic extremism. The long list, man. It's a long list of problems that we have to solve. Man, imagine if the ICU actually took over the entire South and governed properly. They were doing everything good, man. In 2006, there was no, like, I don't understand why these other countries always want to invade and dominate us. Like, it doesn't make a lot of sense, you know? It does make sense. The Ethiopians have been doing that for centuries. They're our enemy, like our staunch enemy. But now they have thousands of troops in our country. We can't do anything about it. Well, we can, but we don't want to. The federal government is a puppet. Honestly, I'm sick of them. Sick of Hassan Sheikh, to be honest. Sick of him.